everyone, welcome back to Colorfully Optimistic. Today I am going to teach you guys how to do a very basic gold effect in your coloring books. The purpose of this is to get away from using this little guy, the metallic gold pencil that comes with your Prismacolors. While it is a good filler, it doesn't give you that 3D pop, so I'm going to teach you how to do that without using this. And hopefully you can get this nice 3D effect on your work just by following this tutorial. So I'm doing this in the Johanna Basford Enchanted Forest. I just found this cute little clock page, and I thought this would be the perfect page to create my tutorial on, just so you could kind of see how the metallic pencil fares against my method. We're only going to go over my favorite colors for a warm gold. And I would like to point out this color combination is not like a hard fast rule. Feel free to play around with your Prismacolors. There's other combos I use for gold, so don't think this is the only way to make your gold. It's just a good starting point, especially if you've never done gold before and you want to get that nice effect on your pages. So first thing, I'm going to show you why this metallic gold pencil isn't the best. Now, as you can see when I put it down, it does have a gold color, give them that, but it's not three-dimensional. It's not popping off the page here. And it does have a nice shiny finish though, like when the light reflects off of it, it is gold, but it just doesn't translate well when you're putting it on a coloring page. I did one here just so you could kind of see. For starters, these gold pencils are not as forgiving as the other colors in your set. They can actually cover up your lines very easily. They come down very thick, and it just doesn't pop off the page. But if you're looking for like a quick filler, don't get me wrong, this is a good pencil to use, especially if you just want to quickly put down some gold, or you're not really going for anything 3D, because there's times I call it lazy coloring, but it's just me not feeling like layering pencils and I just want to color a page and not think about it too much. I'll do this, but see how it covers the lines? So these aren't very forgiving. You have to definitely stay in the lines. And it just kind of covers everything up, but it doesn't pop off the page. So I'm going to show you my method now that hopefully will work a little easier. You will need a couple colors. So we do white, goldenrod, dark umber, yellow ochre, burnt ochre, and canary yellow. That's what I'm going to do for this warm gold. Again, you can play around with colors later after you kind of get the gist of how I do this. But this is just a good starting point if you're like, I need to make gold, but I don't know which colors to mash together. So, first thing you're going to do, I start with dark to light when creating metals. Some people do light to dark. There is no right or wrong way, so I really want to emphasize that. If you prefer to shade light to dark, you can take all these colors in my tutorial and just do it in reverse. But I go dark to light on mine, so I'm going to show you how I do this. First, I put down my brown here in the areas where I would expect it to be a little darker. And the whole point here is we're doing a very light pressure and kind of feathering out our edge because we need to smush our colors on top, and you don't want to see the actual lines here, otherwise that kind of defeats the purpose. So again, feathering out. Now remember, we're working with a lot of colors here. We've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total colors. So you need to plan your space effectively here. So, how am I going to evenly distribute 6 colors? And you want to make sure with these darker browns and orangey colors, we're not taking those all the way to the center. Otherwise, it's just going to look very dull. So you do want to plan that out when you're doing this. So I feathered that in. Next color is our goldenrod. We're basically going from dark to lightest, except we are not using our darkest brown yet. So do not start with the darkest brown. Instead, you're going to start with your burnt ochre. Okay, again, I'm going to overlap the edges of my first one and then kind of feather it out. So we'll overlap and feather. And with this one, this thing here is coming through, so we'll have a little bit more shadow than we would on the pieces like this that have nothing passing by it. So it's okay to bring your darker colors out just a teensy more to help with that shadow effect. And don't worry if it's not looking super pretty. It will once we're done. Okay, next we're going to take the yellow ochre. Again, very light. Go over the edge of your last color, which was goldenrod. Same thing here. We're gonna go over, feathering outward, light pressure. Don't worry about any lines, white underneath. We will address that in a minute. There are instances where you can use a heavy hand, but layering like this is not one of them, because once you put down way too much pigment, it's going to be really hard to come back and lighten up and create that shiny metal effect. So with this one, we definitely want to be nice and light pressure here. So now we're on to our bright yellow. Again, you're going to feather over, but now we're going to overlap all of the colors to kind of bring them together and bring this towards the center a little more. Now, one thing you want to do is plan some white space. See, it's hard to tell in here, but this is actually some white space. White here, white here. I do come around the end here on the edge because I picture this, you know, there's going to be a shadow, a minor shadow on these edges. So I see the highlight coming up here towards the tip. So I definitely want to make sure that I leave some white. And now I'm going to blend all this yellow, kind of smooth it out. You don't want a huge white chunk here. That's not the goal. Tiny white. So before I start finishing this, I'm going to use my white. Do you have to do this? No, but it keeps you from accidentally overlapping. This white just kind of keeps that opaque finish right there. Okay, so now we'll go back to our lightest yellow, and now I'm going to push hard and smush all the wax and pigment of my colors together. Don't be afraid to go over your white spot now. It will not totally cover it up. It'll just leave that. See, you can still see it even though I went over it. Again, let's just make sure they're all nice and even. Now when I say you're blending them all together, make sure you're not burnishing the page. Burnishing is when you're finalizing, kind of like when you're using a blending pencil. But if you burnish too hard, you can't add any more layers, so you do want to be careful there. But now we have our colors down, and you can keep playing with it. Don't be afraid to keep adding layers until it looks just right. It will not hurt it. Now we're ready for our darkest color, the dark umber. This is just to create the effect of a shadow, and that is it. We're not blending it all crazy into this whole thing here. You can actually see where I've put it here in the corners, because this is where I would definitely see this piece overlapping here. Same with this circle is going to cast a small shadow. But I'm also going to put it at the tip just to create that three-dimensional look where the gold is kind of rounding in and catching the light. So put a tiny bit here at the tip and just very lightly feather it out. You don't want to cover your burnt ochre too much. And same thing in here. I'm going to create my shadow. And around the circle, because I want to create my little shadow that this circle on top is definitely going to create. Okay. And you can even take it behind this thing here, because this is crossing over, so it's obviously going to cast a little bit of a shadow. I know it's probably hard to see around my hand, but try to keep my hand out of the way. Okay, very lightly, and then you're just going to take your canary yellow again and just get any hard or weird edges from that brown out and blend them back in, just so it doesn't look like I just plopped some brown on top of it for fun. And there you go. Now you have a more realistic metal look. See, like that? It's all realistic. It has 3 dimensions. And then I think this pops off the page a lot better than just putting down a layer of this metallic gold pencil. You don't have to do it this way, and then of course, like I said, there are tons of other color combos. This is just how I make my warm gold. If I want a brighter gold or something that's not as antiqued and worn, then I'll use a different color. But for warm gold, I think this is the best way to go. I've even been playing around up top here. So definitely use this as a starting point, but don't use this as the only way to make your gold. But if you can, avoid using this metallic pencil as much as possible. I highly recommend doing it just for that 3D pop off your. If you have a way you prefer to make gold or a color combo you want to share, definitely leave that in the comments. Like my video so others can see how to make gold, and this will show up on their results too. And then of course, if you want to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then until next time, keep coloring.